Many of you may have missed the latest run from perpetual dexes like GMX and GNS. But don't worry, because there's another narrative that I believe is just getting started, and it's decentralized options. So it's that next step on from spot and perpetual exchanges, but it's a niche that hasn't really run. Some of the major projects in this niche are still 10, 20, $30 million in their market cap. And I believe it's a sector that could genuinely 100x over the next few years as more capital enters the crypto market. So in today's show, I want to go through my thesis and explain why I think decentralized options are the future of crypto and do offer a chance for significant upside in this market. Make sure you smash the like button and let's get straight into the show. So these are my top 5 picks for the decentralized options narrative that I do believe at some point will play out. And these are 5 of the projects that I am personally looking at. But before we get into those picks and we talk about those projects in their specifics, I do want to talk about the general narrative here, because I think it's important to establish why options are important. Because in crypto, whenever we pick a narrative, we don't just pick projects first. We go by use case first. So we go, okay, what is the use case that I'm trying to target? So I personally believe decentralized options have significant upside. Okay, cool. And once you find that use case, then you can narrow that down into the best projects in each niche. I think a lot of people get very caught up in trying to pick random projects from random niches, and they don't outline their thesis first. So make sure you always outline your thesis first and then pick projects second, rather than doing the opposite. You'll have a lot more success that way in actually picking projects. So firstly, let's define what options are. So an option is essentially a derivative contract. Now, this gives the purchaser the right, but not the obligation, to buy or sell an underlying asset at a set price at a set expiration date. So essentially, options are contracts that allow you to speculate on the future price of an asset. So if you purchase a call option, then you're putting a bet on the price of an asset going up at a future date. And if you're buying a put option, then you're betting on the price going down of a specific asset on a future date. So you might ask, why would I trade options if I can just buy like one Ethereum or one Bitcoin? Why would I buy an option for Ethereum or Bitcoin? Because an option is a fraction of the price of the spot asset. So you can outlay less capital, get the exposure to the same amount of upside, or if you're shorting, the same amount of downside in the form of a put option. And it's more capital efficient because you need to outlay less capital to get the same result in many cases. And this is why options are used so heavily as a hedge in traditional finance, because when you have a big portfolio and you have a very complex portfolio configuration, then if you want to have some hedging exposure, if you want some short exposure to an asset you're long on, for example, then it's cost efficient to just purchase the relative amount of options in that category. Then if if your price ends up going up, you still make money because you're net long. But if the price goes down, then you're covered because you buy that relative amount of options that hedges you to the specific amount you're targeting. So we do see options quite prevalent in traditional finance as a hedge, but it also can be used to speculate on the future price of an asset. So a few benefits. It has utility as a hedging device, as I just mentioned. It has a lower cost of going long or short, but I think most importantly, it's more flexible. So it gives you the ability to execute a variety of trading styles. So the thing is, though, in traditional finance, typically what happens, and this has happened in crypto as well, is traders will go from spot to leverage to options. So most traders, when they first start out, they just trade spot. I'm sure most of you guys, when you just started out, you just trade spot. You buy some Ethereum, you buy some Bitcoin. In traditional finance, it's no different. Most retail and inexperienced investors, they buy stocks, and that's what they do. Then once they get a little bit more confident in the market, typically what happens is they'll graduate to leverage. Now, leverage trading, a little more risk on than spot trading, because you have the risk of liquidation and getting margin called, but that allows you to borrow money and essentially trade with borrow money and trade derivatives. And that's the next step for many traders that back their skills and are confident in the market. They trade with a bit of leverage. That it's a good risk management tool because they don't need to outlay as much and they get exposure to the certain upside. And then those traders, once they're comfortable with leverage trading, a lot of them then decide to go to options. So options, I think, is the third natural progression. I mean, you do also have Forex and commodities trading, which probably kicks in maybe a little bit before or after options trading. But typically, the progression does go in that order, from spot to leverage to options. And then they start executing more advanced strategies, which allow them to, A, adequately hedge their positions, 2, execute diligent risk management, and 3, look to gain capital efficiency through purchasing options while still maintaining the same upside that they would if they were trading spot or leverage. In a lot of cases, there's actually more upside because you can get more exposure to an asset for a lower cost because options are a fraction of the price of the asset that you'd be buying in spot. But here's the thing though, in crypto, unlike traditional finance, there aren't many experienced traders. So the market for options is comparatively smaller. My thesis is that as time goes on and crypto participants start to master the art of spot trading, master the art of leverage trading, then I think options are the next logical steps for a lot of these traders. And I also think that a lot of investors from traditional finance will come into crypto in the future. And as they make this migration to crypto, they will need places to trade options because a lot of them, they already do heavy options trading in traditional finance. They need places to trade options in crypto when they come across to crypto. So they are a powerful risk management tool for a lot of these traditional finance guys that are yet to come into the market. So my thesis is that demand for options trading will increase. I think we haven't even seen the beginning of options trading in crypto. I think we've seen the beginning of spot trading. We've definitely seen the beginning of leverage. And to be honest, leverage is now just kicking off. If you guys don't know, GMX and GNS, they are perpetual dexes. They allow you to trade leveraged assets on a decentralized exchange. And they're just popping off. In fact, I think perp dexes still have heaps of room to run, right? I don't even think GMX or GNS have even reached their full potential yet. But I'm already looking a step ahead because our job as investors is to spot a future narratives and identify it. And I think the perp dex narrative, that's definitely got a few months to run, maybe even a year or two to run. Like that'll keep going. That's a very solid niche. But then you've also got this options niche, which I don't think has even begun. So we know leverage trading, it's at least begun. Options, it hasn't even begun. Like it's so small, the market for options trading in crypto relative to other niches. So our job as investors now is to find them, is to find these new projects that can potentially capture the upside of the growth in options. Because it's one thing saying options will grow. Okay, cool. Well, how do we actually benefit off that? That's another thing. So I think the real important thing to remember here is humans love gambling. Options are basically like casinos, but they don't have any players yet. So we're betting on the infrastructure now before the masses come to play. The tables are ready. The dealers are out. The chips are ready. It's now time to play. And as the players start to come in, that's when we'll see price appreciation of these assets. So this is what the current landscape currently looks like. The biggest crypto options platform is Deribit. So if you want to open an ETH call option, put option, you can trade it through Deribit. That's the biggest crypto options exchange with the most liquidity. Other centralized exchanges, Binance, BYBIT, a few of the other major ones as well, they've now started to release their options trading. So they'll have spot, they'll have leverage, but they also have an options section, which is starting to roll out. I mean, they don't have as many pairs as they do on perps. They've still got some pairs. I wouldn't say it's that common or popular though. So it's the centralized exchanges are definitely coming around to options. You can now trade them through a few of your major platforms. But I'm kind of trying to play this narrative like I played GMX and GNS. So the thing with GMX and GNS is that it's not like you can't trade leverage on Binance or BYBIT or KuCoin. You can. You can trade it on OKX. You can trade it on BitMEX. Like there's so many exchanges to trade leverage. So GMX and GNS, they found a niche. And the niche that they found was operating what the centralized exchanges were operating, but doing so on a DEX. Because there's inherent benefits to trading on a DEX that you don't get through trading through a centralized exchange. Now, a couple of these are, no KYC. So many crypto participants, they don't like to KYC. You can trade on a DEX without KYCing. There's no counterparty risk. So it's a decentralized protocol. There's no risk of the exchange going bust. Yes, there's exploitation risk, but that's always a risk when it comes to smart contracts. I mean, the gist of it is in the future, as smart contracts become more secure, then the risk of counterparties will become greater than the risk of a hack. Now, maybe at this stage, it's in the other direction, but in the future, I do see it skewing that other way. 3, security. So you can have a higher security and also more sovereignty over your own assets because you own your own assets. On an exchange, by and large, not your keys, not your coins. Yeah, it doesn't really matter if you're leverage trading. I do agree, but I do think there's enough of a niche here for decentralized exchanges to take a slight bit of the centralized exchange pie. Now I never think decentralized exchanges will ever be as big as centralized exchanges. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that all they need to do is capture 1 to 2%, a very, very small percent of centralized exchanges transactions or total volume to accrue huge amounts of value. Like Binance, multi-billion-dollar company, Coinbase, multi-billion-dollar company, FTX, multi-billion-dollar company, BYBIT, multi-billion-dollar company. I mean, these crypto dexes, they're still in like the tens of millions, some of them, or even lower. I've got one today that I'm going to show you that's 6 million. So all they need to do is capture a tiny bit of the trading volume of centralized exchanges to really pay off. And that's what we've seen with GMX and GNS exploding in price. They are capturing some users. Now, GNS might only have 5,000 users. GMX does $500,000 in fees a day. That might be tiny compared to BYBIT, but it's still a huge amount when we're considering it in the context of operating on a decentralized protocol. So taking these benefits into an account, now we can apply that logic into options trading, which is obviously the topic of this video. Now, although I am bullish on the perp sector as well, options are the next natural progression from perps. And this is where I'm looking to start placing my bets on these options exchanges before they take off. So I'm looking into the future here. I'm in the next sector that I believe could potentially 100x. So let's have a look at some of the top decentralized options projects that could potentially capture the upside of this sector's growth. Let's dive into 5 of them in today's show and have a look at some of the projects in this niche. The first one is Dopex. Now, Dopex is a very cool decentralized options exchange. This allows users to trade options via their vaults. Now, they recently released a groundbreaking innovation called Atlantics, which allows you to execute a very unique style of options, which increase capital efficiency. So essentially, Dopex facilitates options, but what it does is it uses, through its Atlantics protocol feature, the ability to maintain fixed option expiration dates whilst allowing users to access collateral. So if you execute an option on Dopex and you have a fixed expiration date, you can use those options as collateral to receive essentially receive more funds that you can now trade with. So it's more capital efficient because you can lock yourself in an options position, but also access that collateral against that options position, then use that to trade. So you can use that to make more money. You can use that to hedge downside on the options you purchased. You can use that to do whatever you want to do with. It just gives you a little bit more flexibility. And that's an innovation that I think puts Dopex a little bit ahead of some of the pack here. And what it does is it facilitates an option strategy called straddles options. This allows you to bet on asset volatility. So recently, for example, the market's been very volatile. Obviously, it's stagnated a little bit over the last month. We've had some crazy pumps, crazy dumps, especially around the ETH merge. Very volatile market. So if you were betting volatility there during that period, you would have done quite well. And one of the places you could have done that is via purchasing and trading straddle options on Dopex. So this gives Dopex a little bit of an advantage over some of the other options exchanges, in my opinion, because you are essentially getting access to a more unique variety of options. So if we look at the TVL here to see how Dopex has been traveling. It has $26 million locked. At its peak, it was 162 in March. Started off a little bit. It's been fairly stagnant since that. Obviously, the lunar collapse did trigger a major reduction in TVL as people's risk decreased a little bit. So it's been very stagnant around 26 million. So it's one of the projects that I have got my eyes on as one of the options plays that I'm looking at. Now, remember, these are in no order. So just because Dopex is number 1 doesn't mean it's my favorite. I put this in I don't know, a random order, basically just I was writing it, but it has a market cap of 68 million, which puts it as the highest market cap ranked project of the 5. There are lesser ones I'll be talking about now. One of them is Hegic. Hegic's exploded recently. It has had a price explosion, but even after it's doubled, it's still 16 million. So it's still like a pretty low relative market cap compared to these other options exchanges. And what Hegic does is it's pretty simple actually. It allows you to buy call, put options on ETH and BTC. They just launched on Arbitrum. The Arbitrum hype's real. Many people like trading on Arbitrum. I think that's one of the reasons why it's performed well, because a projected influx in users from the Arbitrum launch, I think, can be expected. So it did really rise in price if we look at the 30-day chart. But then, we zoom out to the yearly chart, and although it did like triple, it's like, or double in price, it's still kind of just a blip in the overall the overall scheme of the project, because obviously most projects have absolutely tanked. So it's still 97% down from its all-time high. It's had a good pump. Maybe we get a correction now post some of the Arbitrum hype diminishing. But remember, this options play, I don't really view this as a short-term thing. I definitely think this can run in the next few months, by the way. I'm not saying it can't, but my mindset when it comes to these options protocols is probably more on that 1 to 2 year horizon. I think we still have a little bit of water to go under the bridge in relation to perp dexes like GMX and GNS before we start seeing a real growth in options. And I still think we probably are a couple of years away from the growth I was talking about earlier in the thread of real traditional finance players coming into the market, demanding, needing options, and also investors and traders in crypto maturing to the point where they're willing and able to use options. So I do think that is a longer play, although at the same time, there probably will be more speculation on these assets as people start to realize just the power of these protocols. So Hegic is another good one, and it also gives you the ability to earn settlement fees from option buyers. So a very common way to structure tokenomics with these options and trading platforms is simply just to pay out a percentage of fees to the stakers. So if you have Hegic and you stake it, then you will get a percentage of settlement fees. They pay back most of their fees from options buyers. So whenever you buy, sell an option, you do pay a small fee, like a transaction fee that gets paid back to the holders of Hegic. Hence, why the more users that use the exchange, the more value it can accrue. It's very similar to GMX in that respect, which is good because it's a linear progression of value accrual. It's actually not linear. It's effective value accrual. So, and that's exactly what we look for when we evaluate a project, because there can be great projects, but they just never capture their value of how many users they have because the token just has no value capture. So that's something that's good about these exchanges. They tend to capture value a little bit more efficiently than some of these other projects. The third one is Premia Finance, very small market cap as well. This one's super interesting, guys. If you have time today, and obviously you're watching this video, so I hope you have time to do some more research, go to my thread, link in the description to my Twitter at Miles Deutscher. Go on to number 3. You can do it by just scrolling through the thread, click looking at number 3, my Premia tweet, and click on this post. It's by the Babylonians, and they actually recently just followed me. Thank you. I'm going to follow back because their research is very good. There's this amazing thread on Premia, and I wouldn't do it justice if I just read it out today. I think you guys need to really absorb this for yourself and have a look through it because it's a very, very good thread, and they have a Notion board which goes through all the diagrams and all the resources you need to know with these projects. So they've got all their resources on that Notion. So it's a very, 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 very good thread. It basically shows you how the Premia exchange works, how the collateral and the settlement works on the exchange, and also how the token accrues value. Basically, the TLDR, so the too long didn't read of Premia, is it has a very sleek UI. In fact, if I can just show you the UI here, it's like using Robinhood. It's so sleek. You'll see it when the interface loads here. Yeah, look, it's such a nice interface. Very nice website, lovely trading interface. Very easy. I mean, it's got 8 DeFi pairs right now. I think it'll get more pairs in the future. MetaMask is just popping up. Yeah, it's just a very sleek UI, and that's one of the major selling points of Premia. It's very easy. It reminds me of Dopex a little bit, but has a few pools. So you got YFI as an asset, Bitcoin as an asset that you can trade, ETH, ALC, Link. They had more assets. I think they removed a few because the liquidity was being diluted slightly. They are on Ethereum, Arbitrum, Optimism, and Phantom. So they're on a few different networks. I think different networks have some different pools as well for you guys to get involved with. So Premia Finance is cool. They allow you to trade call put options, simple, but they also have a very sleek UI, and they pay out 80% of fees, similar to Hegic, to ex-Premia stakers. So if you have Premia, you can stake it for ex-Premia, and you'll get 80% of the protocol fees paid back to all the holders. Good thread, though. You should really check out that thread if you want to learn more. Actually, this was posted on my birthday, so it's a cool little bonus. So this is now the 4th one. This is the least market cap of this entire list. This is basically a low cap. This is very, very, very low in terms of its cap. But there's a very interesting project called Jones DAO. So if you don't want to buy options manually, which appeals to more experienced traders, and you don't want to enter vaults where you have composability, but more importantly, customizability over your strategies, because that's a little bit complicated, then you can go to the Dow Jones, which is funny. It sounds like the stock market exchange, but you can go to the Jones DAO, which offers you one-click access to institutional grade strategies. So they have the strategies built out for you. They have a variety of vaults. You can execute their option strategies in one click. Connect your MetaMask, deposit. Like, it's that simple. So it's kind of like the aggregator of options. It's like the beefy finance of the options market. Just gives you an easy way to enter option strategies. And I think this appeals more so to your more inexperienced retail traders. Remember the point I made earlier about retail loving to gamble? Humans by nature love gambling. This is the casino. This is the casino's infrastructure here. I think although some of the other options protocols, they are going to capture more upside because that's where the big traditional finance players are going to come in. That's where your big experienced traders are going to trade. I think this Jones exchange or Jones Vault offers you slightly more exposure to that retail segment. So more of the gambling element that we previously talked about, because these guys won't be as experienced, but they need places to stake and not necessarily stake, but execute option strategies in an easy way. So there's a good thread on this as well, as part of my thread, which explains what it is, but it's essentially real yield as well, because it does pay back that percentage of fees to holders. If you guys notice the trend with the protocols I've been speaking about recently, basically all the projects I've spoken about over the past few months, they've had very good tokenomics and they've had very good value accrual, because I've made it a point as an investor to really focus and prioritize the projects that are generating real yield. I'm kind of sick of the Ponzi's. I think a lot of us are. We really want to invest in projects that are showing real user growth, real revenue growth. And I've really made a point of that over the last 6 months. And that's why basically all of these projects have quite good tokenomics. Now, not all of them are amazing. They all have flaws. In future videos, I might go through them individually or focus on one or two to give you a deep dive, strategies, etc. But just remember, they're not all perfect. I'm going to show you number 5 now. Number 5 is maybe my favorite on this entire list, due to a few key reasons. It just has a massive ecosystem that's growing very quickly. Before I get into that, though, I do want to thank Nested Finance for coming on as an official show sponsor. This is a very, very cool sponsorship. I've been waiting to close this one for a while. We've been in talks with them. We're finally officially sponsored by Nested, which is really cool. I'm sorry we don't have the Nested sponsorship in the right hand corner. We didn't get the graphics in time. Nested, if you're watching. But the platform itself is essentially a way for you to DCA, but also purchase portfolios all at once. So what I'm going to do on the show in the future is I'm going to build a portfolio. So it may include some of these assets. In fact, I might build a few different portfolios. So I might build like a DeFi portfolio. I might build a one portfolio, like a safe, a risky one. I'm going to build a few portfolios. And what you can actually do on Nested, it's very, very cool. Instead of having to manually go into a BYBIT and purchase spot assets every time you want to buy assets, all you need to do on Nested is click on the portfolio. You literally click and you click copy. And when you click copy, it buys the entire portfolio using a smart contract straight to your wallet. You have an entire portfolio, which is weighted. So what I can do as the portfolio creator is I could say, okay, I want 30% Matic, I want 25% Aave, I want 8% Curve, I want 8% Balancer. I can put all these projects into my own portfolio. And then if you click the copy button, you literally get access not only to the portfolio, but the allocations, which is quite cool. And it gives you a way to DCA, because you might go, okay, I want to put $100 every month into this DeFi portfolio. I think I'll focus on small caps, to be honest, because I like the risk reward of some of these DeFi small caps, because you don't need to put much money in, but you can get a lot out. But I'll do a range of strategies, and you can basically go, okay, I want to copy your portfolio. Bang, click copy. I'm DCAing $100 a month. Every month, you can just copy it, and it will automatically reallocate. So that is quite cool. So I just wanted to introduce it today. I don't have any of my portfolios live. That's something we'll probably look to launch later in the week. And then you can basically copy my portfolio. So very, very happy to be partnering with Nested, because it's very cool as a project. So link in the description to that if you want to check it out, get set up with it, get familiar with it, because we will be launching some portfolios over on Nested, which is very, very cool. All right, so the last project, and hopefully some of these projects might make an appearance in some of these portfolios, because that's definitely something that I want to do. So the 5th one is Lyra Finance, market cap of 30 million. One of my favorites. This is one of my favorites out of this entire list. I don't know if it's my favorite. I don't even follow them. What am I doing? I have to follow Lyra. It's one of my favorites on this list because of the ecosystem. So if we look at their latest updates, they are partnering with Polynomial. They're partnering with Brahma, Tauros, and Hedge. And what these other projects do is they introduce Lyra's options feature into their interfaces. So they're basically, other projects use the Lyra suite, the Lyra options suite as part of their project suites. So it's very cool, because what you can do is you can trade using synths to enable automated market maker priced options trading. So an AMM prices the assets, then they use synths to allow users to trade options. It's a very cool protocol. In fact, if I could show you the interface now, I will. app.lyra.finance, and the token's called Lyra. It's a $30 million market cap. I'd say Lyra and Dopex being the biggest in this list. They're the two least risky. As you start getting into the Jones DAO, it's a lot riskier. Premia Finance, a lot riskier. Hegic, a lot riskier, but these ones have more upside. So when you allocate assets, you want to allocate them accordingly. Can I just make this very clear though? I don't own any of these assets. So I wanted to make a point. I always want to make a point of being extremely transparent with you. I own 0 of these 5 tokens. I don't even own a cent in any of these assets. The reason is I wanted to give you guys the alpha before I bought. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with me buying before I do a show, by the way, as long as I disclose that I own the asset. But I thought I would just disclose anyway that I don't own it, just so we're all on the same page. So I'm like you here. I haven't accumulated yet. I may be pumping the price before I've even gotten entries here just by talking about these projects. I'm sorry. In fact, Hegic is already up a little bit since I tweeted it. That's just the reality sometimes when I'm talking about small caps. I don't like pumping my own bag, so I didn't buy any beforehand. Just wanted to make that totally clear and be transparent with you. And if I ever did buy a project before I did a show, I would also let you know, hey, I bought the project. I believe in the project. So I don't know. I just think it's important to disclose positions and be transparent. So I don't own them. I think I'm in a similar boat in the sense that I do want exposure to options. I have exposure to GNS, so I've got exposure to perps. I don't have exposure to options. I was thinking of entering in some of the safer ones first. So your Lyras, your Dopexes, larger market caps, just have a bit of a nibble on the industry, but then also maybe start allocating towards some of these riskier ones. The 5 I mentioned in today's video, by the way, are just kind of scratching the surface. There are more. There are another 4 or 5 pretty decent ones that are very small market caps as well. I just didn't want to do a whole thread on shitcoins. I wanted to give you just 5 solid ones, and then we can look into more later. Basically, when it comes to niches, you can't own them all. You kind of have to pick your favorites. So do your own research. Look through each protocol. Look through the tokenomics. Look through the white papers. Join their Discords. Get involved. See how lively the community is, and then allocate towards the assets that you prefer, because you can't own everything. Just like you can't own every L1. There's a reason I don't own Cardano. It's not because I think it's not a bad project inherently. In fact, the tech is actually pretty decent. It's just, it's opportunity cost. You have to pick and choose. You have to be picky in crypto. So I could make a case for most projects in the top 20, but you can't invest in all the projects in the top 20 because opportunity costs. You need to have higher conviction in select assets because that's how you get those crazy returns. You can't just own everything. And that's part of the reason why when we do a video like this and we look at options exchanges, you're not just going to buy every options exchange under the sun. I mean, you could. That would essentially be an ETF of options, so you would capture upside. It's not a terrible strategy, but it's maybe not ideal because there's projects that are better and worse for your risk profile that may suit you better and your portfolio better. Like if you needed some safer access, you look on the Dopex side. If you're looking for that real 100 to 200x, you might look at a Hegic or a Premia at that lower market cap, or even a Jones DAO because it's got that low market cap. It's got more upside, but it also has more downside. So there are things to consider, and that's why it's totally up to your risk tolerance. Before we talk about some of these stuff, how are the L1 airdrops doing? So we had the Aptos airdrop. I still think the ecosystem that we talked about last week has some good airdrop potential. That's where I would be looking on Aptos. Sui said they're not doing an airdrop. I don't know if that's true. I think there's definitely a chance they do an airdrop, so I would participate in that ecosystem. Not that many other L1s launching in the near future, but you do have ZK Sync, who said their token's not coming for a while, but still might be worth looking at. And obviously Layer 02, which is probably the better of the two. Arbitrum, getting quite saturated now. I'm seeing everyone and their dog doing the Arbitrum airdrop. So maybe it's worth focusing on those smaller caps in the meantime. But yeah, I was going to show you Lyra's interface. It has 3 assets: Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum. You can trade. They've got their own vaults. Pretty sleek, easy to use interface as well. So that was the fifth options exchange that I wanted to mention in today's show. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I think this is a very cool narrative. It's not one that I'm just going to dump on you guys and then we're never going to talk about it again, though, because I have conviction in this. And I think it's something that we'll continue to revisit and we'll continue to do more deep dives into some of the individual projects. Today's video serves as an introduction to decentralized options. So next time when I do a show on options protocols, I don't need to explain my thesis again. Like, I don't need to explain why I believe more participants are entering options, what options are. We can kind of just get into the fun stuff. So today's video will be that reference point for future videos on options protocols, which we definitely will do. Don't worry, because I think it's the next progression from perp dexes, and I believe there is significant upside in options as well. So I'm going to Lisbon tonight. I've got a flight later tonight, guys. I had the worst morning ever. My phone died. Like, literally, the screen's been glitching for a while because I've dropped it a lot. Had a bit of water damage, but then it came good. It started working. Fine for like 3 months. And then this morning, the screen was glitching. I was like, oh, this isn't good. And now I just can't turn it on. And I got a flight in like 11 hours. So and I'm in the country now, so I've got a little bit of a long day ahead of me. I've got to drive into the city, go to the Apple store, buy a new iPhone. I don't even want the new iPhone because it's not available in Australia. So I can't get the 14 Pro Max in Australia. So I've got to get the 13 or 14. First world problems, but I'm getting the Pro Max later because I've ordered it. So I'm going to need to buy a new phone, use it for a week in Europe, and then sell it. And then, yeah, it's just so unnecessary. Such a waste of money having to buy a new phone. But, I mean, it is what it is. So, yeah, long story short, from all that, I've got a flight tonight. I'm going to Lisbon. If you are going to Breakpoint, I'm looking forward to meeting you guys. It's going to be really, really cool. And then I'm doing London. I'm doing Token 2049. So if you guys are in London, come see me. I know it's late, so not all of the European guys are up yet, but they might be up later when you watch the show later. So I will be in London as well. And then I'm doing maybe France and Amsterdam, and just going to have a lot of fun over in Europe. I'm taking a week off streaming in a couple of weeks just to relax because I've been streaming for almost a year straight now, which is kind of crazy to say. But I will be streaming in Lisbon. And guys, I'm so excited because I'm going to give you updates into the Solana ecosystem, an ecosystem that we haven't heard much of. Actually, recently we got a big update. We got that big update that there's a new protocol that's doing a decentralized Uber on Solana. I did a tweet about it, which is very, very cool. In fact, I'll show you now. So there's definitely potential in some of these Solana projects to really gain some adoption. This was the big one I wanted to talk about. Teleport creators raised $9 million to build decentralized Uber rival on Solana. This is what we want to see. We want to see Web3 protocols with real utility like this. Awesome to see. More protocols like this is a big win. And if they build on Solana, that's a big win. So hopefully at the conference, I can get some more insight for you guys in terms of what projects are building, what niches are really arising, and then Token 2049 as well the week after. That will be amazing. I'm sure we're going to do a documentary there with Ran and the guys, and we'll interview some of the major guys in the industry and get some of the inside scoop. So I will be streaming in Lisbon. I just won't be streaming for a couple of days because I'm flying, and you guys know I'm in Australia. It's very, very hard to get to Europe. That it just is what it is when you choose to live in a country like this. I kind of wish I was living in Dubai. Then I could just hop across quite easily, but that's all right. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to go to the city now, buy myself a new phone, unfortunately, and then come back, pack, off to Europe, and then I'll see you guys in a couple of days. So I hope you guys can enjoy this video. In the meantime, I've given you plenty of research to do on 5 pretty cool projects, and there may be more that I missed out on. Let me know in the comments below if I missed out on anything. If you're not subscribed. Make sure to subscribe. Change your camera. It's blurry. Just quickly on this, I've been in the country all week. The internet here sucks. This is the last stream I'll ever have to do on this internet, which is great. Hopefully in Europe, look, I don't have high hopes that the European internet will be amazing, but it should be better than this. I mean, basically anything's better than this. So I'll have good quality streams, hopefully coming to you guys in a couple of days, and we can and we can get cracking on them again. So yeah, cool guys. I'll catch you in the next one. I'll see you in a couple of days. Peace.